learn how to upgrade this portrait into an Amazonian warrior princess, or teleport these three characters into the world of Depeche Mode. So you've created your characters in a whole bunch of different scenes, but you haven't really figured your story out yet. And perhaps you've even thought about creating the exact same story using multiple different themes. Well, today I'm going to show you how you can use Theme Infusion to create as many spin-offs of your stories as you like. And make sure you stick around till the very end, where I show you exactly just how far you can take this. Welcome back to part 5 of this character design series. Today's video is going to be a whole lot of fun. And I think you're going to find the method that I'm about to show you extremely useful. At its core, it's a very simple concept that can be applied to nearly every image. Whether you're working on a portrait or a landscape scene, it really doesn't matter. The beauty of this method is that it can remove a lot of the unnecessary stuff that you might be adding into your prompts right now. So what is this magic process that I'm talking about? Well, I call it Theme Infusion. And as far as I know, no one has actually formalized this process or given it a name yet. So let it be written into scripture. Today was the day I coined the term Theme Infusion. And if you ever hear anyone use that word or describe this process, make sure they cite me. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's fine. Now, I know what many of you might be thinking. Sure, you know what themes are, and you've probably used them a whole lot in various different prompts already. We've all seen them a million times. Cyberpunk, vaporwave, steampunk, and whatnot. And even though you can obviously use these themes for this method as well, we're not actually talking about the same thing. You see, when you simply add the term cyberpunk into your prompt, then you already know that you want to create an image that uses this theme. And let's face it, you have no idea to what degree the theme will be actually used in the final image that you create. Theme Infusion is different because it can be applied to any existing prompt, and you can even control how much influence it should have. Don't worry, I will be creating a dedicated video on Theme Infusion in the near future. It's an extremely powerful method that is not limited to character design or storytelling. It can be used on literally anything you create in Midjourney. However, today we're going to focus on how we can apply it on some of the existing work that we've already done in this series. Infusing a character. Now, before we start going through some examples here, it's important to understand what the purpose of Theme Infusion even is. Remember, we're not trying to create consistent characters here. We're trying to infuse a specific theme, a certain mood, and a world of ideas into an existing image. And this will invariably lead to slight changes in the way your characters look. In fact, the more detailed your images are, the more obvious the changes will be. Anyway, enough about theory. Let's see how this works in action. So I'm going to start off by bringing back an old character concept of Carla. Remember these concept images? Great, because we're going to infuse them with an entirely new theme. I'm going to use the same theme that I teased at the very end of part 5 of this series, a jungle tribe theme. It's not really anything special. I just picked something that I thought would have uniquely identifiable characteristics. Next, I'm going to turn our prompt into a multi-prompt and add a second segment. Our prompt will look like this. As you can see, all I've done is add the jungle tribe theme segment, and I've given it a very light weight of 0.5. Based on the overall prompt, the infused theme now only represents about 33% of the prompt. If the math confuses you, let me help you out real quick. The first segment has a weight of 1, and the second segment has a weight of 0.5. We've distributed 1.5 weight points in total. So 0.5 divided by 1.5 is roughly 33%. Got it? Great. The difference to the original 4 images is pretty obvious. However, the differences are primarily in composition and pose. As we start to increase the level of infusion, make sure you pay special attention to the top right image and the bottom right image. So let's increase the infusion to about 42%. As you can see, all I've done is I've changed the weight of Jungle Tribe theme from 0.5 to 0.75. So this is where you really start to notice a difference, right? Our character concept still has the upper hand. However, her face, her hairstyle, her clothes, and even the background has started to change quite a bit. And as I slowly increase the weight of the theme, her characteristics are going to be altered more and more. As you can see, the theme really starts to take over as soon as it hits about 57% of influence. Of course, nothing's stopping you from going even further, especially if you just want to create a cool image. However, if you're just trying to infuse your existing storyboards, make sure you don't take it too far. Infusing a simple scene. Alright, so now I'm going to show you that this doesn't only work with portraits, but with scenes as well. Let me quickly grab another one of our older images from part 2 of this series. I'm sure you remember this image of Carla sitting on top of an army tank. Great, so we're going to do exactly the same thing as before. Let's start off with some very light theme infusion. All I've done here is that I've added Jungle Tribe theme as a second segment with a weight of 0.5. So in this example, you can see that even with such a low amount of infusion, we've already made a significant enhancement to the image. The background is no longer pale white, and you can clearly see that the tank is located somewhere inside a jungle. The reason why the impact is more significant here is because the original prompt already contained a lot of different elements. There isn't a single dominant concept, so we need a lot less infusion in order to make a difference. Let me quickly show you how this set of images evolves as we slowly push up the weights. Here's 0.75, then a weight of 1. Here's a weight of 1.25, and finally a weight of 1.5. As you can see, you need to be careful how far you go with these. Depending on your original scene, as well as the theme that you're using, it's quite easy to lose control of your original idea. That's why I always recommend starting with a very low number and then slowly working your way upwards. Another thing to note is the weights that work for a relatively simple prompt may not necessarily work for a far more complex prompt. This is particularly the case as soon as you introduce image references into your prompts. Infusing prompts with image references. Image prompts are always a bit tricky when you combine them with multi-prompts. As you know, the image weight parameter is not supported by version 4 of Midjourney right now. And even though we don't really know what the default image weight in version 4 is, or at least I don't, I'm going to assume that it's roughly 50% of the overall prompt. To be honest, it doesn't really matter what the actual percentage is. The point is that as soon as you introduce an image prompt, the influence of your text prompt drops by a lot. So that means in order to infuse your theme, you'll most likely have to use much higher weights. Remember this set of images from part 3? Here's what the prompt looked like. Imagine, and then started off with 2 image prompts, followed by wide angle shot of room, beautiful woman, bright red braided bun hair, basically our Carla concept, and then followed by reading a newspaper while sitting on a couch. So remember, those 2 image prompts represent 50%, and the entire text prompt another 50%. Now let's try infusing a theme into our scene. I'm not going to use the Jungle Tribe theme here because I want to make a much bigger point here. And in order to do that, I need to use something else. Here's what I'll do. Notice how I've added a second segment in the text prompt? I've used public library theme because I want to place Carla in a particular setting without having to describe every single detail. By using a weight of 1, I've given the theme about 25% overall influence. And if you look at the images, you can see that it's definitely had an impact already. But things get a lot more interesting if I increase the weight. Here's what it looks like with a weight of 2. Or how about a weight of 3? And with 4, the changes are quite significant. It's important to understand that there are diminishing returns by using this method. Since the text prompt will never have more influence than 50% overall, increasing the weights on the infusion does have its limits. In this construct, a weight of 4 is roughly equivalent to about 40% of the overall prompt, and this tends to be the point where it starts to taper off dramatically. But you can clearly see how powerful theme infusion can be. And you can also apply it to very complex prompts. Fusing complex prompts. Let me quickly recover another image from part 3 of this series. This prompt not only uses an image reference, it also uses multi-prompts with 3 segments of equal weights already. So if we want to infuse our theme into this prompt, we're going to have to use very, very strong weights in order to do so. Here's what it looks like with a weight of 2, which represents about 20% of influence. That's actually not bad, is it? You can clearly see how the coffee shop is filled with a lot more plants, and the image has an overall much warmer tone to it. But the composition really hasn't changed much. So let's see what happens if I increase the weight to 7, which represents roughly 35% of influence. If you're having trouble following my math here, remember that all of the different parts of your prompt are relative to each other. So adding or removing certain prompts, such as an image prompt, or adding segments or removing segments, does have an influence on how these factors play into the calculus. So are you ready to see what this does? Pretty crazy, isn't it? Now I realize that Carla's face is completely messed up, but that was already the case in the original image anyway. But just look at these scenes. There is no way in hell you can create something like this with a simple text prompt. Infusing multi-character scenes. Once again, let me quickly retrieve an old image that we've used before. This was a very complex prompt that we used to place 3 different characters in a scene. It uses the image reference for the style, and the 3 segments control the subjects within the scene. This is a very similar setup to our previous example. I'm going to try a slightly different theme this time. We'll use Winter Wonderland instead, and here's what it looks like with a weight of 2. And if I increase the weight to something a little bit more extreme, such as 5, here's what we get. As you can see, the style is still mostly the same. However, it's starting to go more and more off the rails. The rabbit is slowly starting to morph into a snowman, and the kids look increasingly different, and sometimes they even disappear altogether. But obviously, you don't always want to use such extreme values. We're trying to infuse, not inject. And remember, you can do this with just about any idea or theme that you can think of, whether it's Christmas, Winter Wonderland, world politics, the Mars landing, Satanism, or even Pokemon. The only limit is your very own imagination. So this concludes the 6th, and for now, final part of this character design series. If and when I create a part 7, rest assured, you'll find it linked here in the corner of the screen as soon as it goes live. If you missed the last episode, then go catch up on that content and check out part 5 of the series below. And if you're new to the channel, go check out the entire playlist on character design right here in the corner of the screen. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a comment, keep on learning, and take care.